Okay, so here are your homework problems. You're doing 17 through 61 every other odd. It's kind of weird every other odd, but I'm doing that so that you've got a good cross-section of what's going to be of problems of the type that are in this section. And we start off with the ones that are a little bit harder than some of the others, so don't get discouraged if you feel like the first two are kind of hard. All right, number 17. How many three-digit numbers can be formed under each condition? So I have three-digit numbers, and here's my digits. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not 10, sorry. 10's not a digit. All right, so I have 10 digits. All right, and the leading digit cannot be a 0, so I only have 9 choices here. But it didn't say anything about repetition, so I guess I could have 911 or whatever. And so I have 9 left to choose from. I'm sorry, so I have 10. I could even use the 0 now. Just the leading digit can't be a 0, but any of the others can. And so 9 times 10 times 10 is 900 ways. On the B part, the leading digit cannot be a 0, so I only have 9 choices, and no repetition is allowed. So if I don't let 0 be the lead digit, and I pick one of the others, say 5, just picked one out of the blue, that means that I can use any of these others for my next digit, including 0. So I have 9 choices, and with no repetition, now whichever one of these that I pick, I only have 8 left. So I have 9 times 9 times 8, which is 648. And then C, the leading digit cannot be 0, and the number must be a multiple of 5. So look at my digits. The leading digit cannot be 0. Didn't say it couldn't be included anywhere else. And so I only have 9 choices. It didn't say anything about repetition. And so now I have any of these 10. But it's got to be a multiple of 5. Let's write down some 3-digit numbers that are multiples of 5. So to be a multiple of 5, it's got to end in a 5 or a 0. So there's only 2 choices there. And so for that, we get 180 choices, 180 ways to count that. All right, so that was number 17. Sorry, let's see. I'm trying to paste the book questions on here. All right, so that was 17. Now we're skipping 19 and going to 21 because we're doing every other odd. And so on 21, we have find the letters. Okay, so we have a radio station. It tells that typical radio stations are identified by 4 call letters like WAPT or something. Radio stations east of the Mississippi start with a W, and radio stations west of the Mississippi start with a K. It could be WAAZ or WPQR. There's all sorts of different scenarios. So how many choices do I have? So all the different radio stations that are possible in the U.S. Well, they have to start with a W or a K, so there's 2 choices, a W or a K there. Then it didn't say anything about repetition, so I could use any of the other 26 letters. And that number is, let me find that number. Or you could just type it into your calculator. I don't even know if I wrote down that number. Let me see. I don't know what that big number is. Let me get it so that you can check your work. So that number is all right, so 2 times 26 times 26 times 26 is 35,152 radio stations. All right, and then the B part's really interesting. Find the number of different radio stations where the call letters are possible when the call letters must include a Q. It didn't say only one Q, so I guess we could have this, or we could have this. All right, so I broke it down into some different scenarios like this. And, oh yeah, I forgot I couldn't extend the page here. So let me go to a new page. All right, so I thought about first the scenario, what if they were all Q's? The last three. So this has to be a W or a K, so there's only two choices. And if I wanted it to go Q, 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 then I've just decided on the Q. There's two ways. I could have W, Q, 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 or K, Q, Q, Q. I can't say Q, 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 all right? Then I started thinking, what else is possible with these W and K? I could just have a Q here, which means I've got one choice for the front. And then it didn't say anything about repetition, but I wouldn't have 26 because that would mean I would include the Q. Right now I'm just trying to just have one Q. And so I'm going to leave out a Q, and there'd be 25 choices here. Now that Q could land here or here. All right, so if this is a Q, these could be any of the other 25. And again, the reason I'm writing 25 is I'm just trying to have one Q. But what could happen with the Q's? What else could happen? I could have two Q's. Okay, so if this is a Q and this is a Q, I've made one choice as a Q. I don't want another Q, so there's only 25 letters to choose from because I'm leaving out the Q. This one's a Q, say this one's a Q, so I have this. And one that you probably see that I haven't done is if the last two are Q's. If this is a Q and this is a Q, then this could be 25. And so this is 25 times 25 times 2. All right, that's 1250, and there's 3 of those. So this is 3750. There's 50 of these, and then there's 3 of them, so that's 150. And then these other 2 where you had all 3 Q's. So I'm adding all this together, and I get 3,902 ways. All right, so that was a way just to list them. What if they were all Q's? What if there was one Q, or what if there were 2 Q's, and where could they be is what I thought about. So it'd be different if they said, what are the ways where it could have only one Q, and you would be doing this. All right, there's also another way to work it that some people do when it says at least one Q. Is think of all of the ways that something could happen and subtract. Like, for instance, I could have all the letters included in my last 3, including the Q. And that number was 35,000. I've forgotten what it was. Let me get it. Okay. So 2 times 26. That was 35,152. And then figure out the ways where I'm leaving out a Q in each blank. So these are all the ways you could do it without a Q. Just use any of the other combinations of all the 25 other letters and just don't include the Q at all. And that number, let's see, is 31,250. 31,000. All right, so this is the way that you could do all of the numbers starting with a W and K, all of the call letters. And this is like leaving out the Q, so I'm going to subtract the 2. And if I subtract those 2, I get 3,902. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. I'll come back for the rest while I answer my phone.